Hello everyone and welcome. This is English lesson, grade 4, secondary school. Our topic today is how to use connectives. My name is Željka and I will be your teacher today. In our lesson today, our task is to name the different connectives, identify different kinds, and use them correctly. This image contains some of the most commonly used connectives. You have probably used many of them before, but it's time to expand your knowledge. We will begin with a practical example. Let's start. Your first task is to think about the following situation. Most of you are starting your driving lessons about this time, and you want to get your driving license eventually. Knowing the traffic rules and regulations and being young and fit, you think you are safe on the road. Look at these two sentences. Young drivers are safe on the road. They have better reflexes. Try to think of a way to connect these two sentences together into one. Use appropriate connectives when combining these two sentences. Try to use as many as you can think of. And please be creative. Here are a few examples. Young people have better reflexes, therefore they are safer on the road. It may be also something like this. Young people have better reflexes, clearly they are safer on the road. Or maybe, young people are safe on the road, obviously they have better reflexes. As you can see, these words really make the difference. You might want to listen carefully because you will be using connectives in your essay, the final part of the state matura exam. So, what are the connectives? Words and phrases that connect and make logical transitions between the sentences, paragraphs, and sections of a paper. They help us make comparisons. They help us emphasize what is the most important in our text. They show sequence, persuade, or illustrate our point. The purpose of connecting sentences, ideas, and paragraphs is to guide the reader along the path you develop. That is a solid way to prove an argument. Linking words and phrases are a vital element of your essay. Learn to use them accurately to write better. Now I'm going to show you the most useful connectives you can use in the state matura exam. Let's see. They are all under one name, connectives, but they are used for different purposes. For example, we may want to illustrate the point. See, I just use one myself. I use the illustrating connective, for example. You can also use in other words, such as, for instance. Next, you may want to emphasize your point using especially, above all, or another emphasizing connective for this purpose. You can say, living with parents is much more comfortable, especially when we consider that young people rarely have a sustainable income. When you want to add more points to your discussion, you will need one of these connectives. In addition, further, as well as. To give an example, in addition to financial security, young people also enjoy the feeling of safety as they are wary of venturing into the world alone. To show contrast between their statements, you can use despite this, on the contrary, or maybe nevertheless. Let's try to use them in a sentence. Students and teachers can communicate more easily through social media. Despite this, some of these interactions may become too informal. For cause and effect, you should use because, therefore, thus. For example, Some people have difficulties with reading and may even suffer from dyslexia. Therefore, such individuals would enjoy a movie much more than a book. Some connectives to help you express your opinion are possibly, presumably, obviously. Remember, we used the last one in our example earlier. Perhaps this example will paint a better picture. Mandatory school uniforms mask the difference in social status of a student. Presumably, this would lead to less bullying between them. When comparing your points, some of these will be a good choice, equally, similarly, or in comparison. We could use them in this way. An 18-year-old may be too inexperienced and uninformed to vote. Similarly, they may be easily manipulated by others. To persuade your reader or listener, you will want to use certainly, indeed, surely, or undoubtedly. In a sentence, it may sound like this. A more introverted person may prefer to work alone rather than work in a group. Certainly, such a person would have more success doing a project on their own. To show sequence of events, we use firstly, secondly, meanwhile, eventually. An example would be, firstly, tourists can leave a lot of waste behind and behave differently than in their homeland because they know what they will be staying only for a short while. Secondly, they may be rude to locals and may be bad at communication. Finally, to conclude our essay, it is best to use summarizing, to sum up, or to conclude. Try implementing different concluding connectives when writing your essay instead of always using finally, for example. Connectives are easy to use once you become familiar with them. Note how I concluded my presentation of the slide using a concluding connective. Your next activity will be to go to these links. Copy or type them each separately in your address bar. When you click on them, you will see the gap fill exercise. In each one, you will choose the most appropriate connective. After you have done your task, you can also click the check button to see if you got it right. You may pause the presentation while you do the exercise. Good luck with your activity. So to repeat once again, which connectives are especially useful when starting a new paragraph? Firstly, first of all, in the first place, or to begin or start with. Different ones are used to add new arguments. One, another, an additional advantage or disadvantage. The main, the first, the greatest advantage or disadvantage. In addition, furthermore, moreover, besides, apart from. When you want to make a contrasting statement, you will certainly need some of these. On the other hand, however, still, yet, but, nonetheless, nevertheless, even so. It may be said, it may be argued, it may be claimed. Although, though, even though, while, whilst, whereas, despite, in spite of, or regardless of. The last task today is for you to write an essay on the following topic. Online games aren't just a diversion, but a unique way to meet other people. When you think of this topic, a point supporting this claim would be: online video games usually come with a big community. Furthermore, this community is more likely to share interests. Consequently, it is easier to form friendships. Nevertheless, video games can be a distraction from the real world and thus lead to neglecting real-life friends, and family. For example, one could become addicted and refuse to leave their room. Try to make your own points to add to this discussion. Don't forget to use variety of connectives instead of repeating the most common ones. We have certainly empowered you writing competencies, and I hope you have learned a lot. I trust that you have listened well to this presentation and have found the examples useful. Nevertheless, you will need to practice a lot to truly master your connectives. Goodbye, and use your newly acquired knowledge to write a good essay.